Salve everyone. Greetings to everyone watching this presentation as part of the 78th Annual Institute of the American Classical League. My name is Nathalie Roy. Thanks for joining me for my presentation, Promote Your Program, Hands-on History Outreach. If at any point in this presentation you feel you need to contact me, my information is here on this slide. I'll go back one slide as well. We also have a QR code for you to go ahead and scan if you would like. There's lots of resources in this presentation, so I've made it easy for you to access. Very soon, I will add to the presentation a recording of this video, so you'll have that as well if you need it. So lots of people ask what it is that I do. They know that I teach Latin, but I also teach two other classes, one called Roman Technology, in which we recreate the products and processes of ancient Roman daily life using experimental archaeology and hands-on history labs. A lot of fun with that. And then Myth Makers is my other class. We use ancient Greek and Roman myths as inspiration for maker projects. So tinkering, playing with all kinds of media. And of course, yes, I teach Latin as well. This presentation kind of comes from the Roman tech myth makers area of what I do. So often I get this question, what is hands-on history? What do you mean by that? Hands-on history is exactly what it sounds like. People are allowed to work with history in a very hands-on way. And this allows the public to experience the material culture of the ancient world. It's a model that is used all over Europe in hands-on history museums. There are things for people to do when they visit these things. They don't just go and look at displays; they actually interact with the displays. They might have some weaving that they can do. They might be able to grind grain and learn about ancient food. So it's all kinds of things. My favorite one for this, though, is Butzer Ancient Farm, which is in southern England. But these museums are quite common all over Europe. All right, so why should we be doing this type of engagement with the public? Well, it's engaging. That's exactly what it is, right? Children and adults just tend to remember more and experience more deeply when they use all five of their senses instead of just seeing something. When they're hearing it, when they're tasting it, even sometimes when they're smelling it, when they're touching it for sure, they're going to remember more about it. And you'll see all of the pictures in this presentation, by the way, are public pictures that have been taken at our events and have been posted by the museum that we work with. So this little girl is not one of my students, but you can see that she's very, very focused in what she's doing. She's creating an ancient Roman mosaic in a particular style, which we'll talk about this activity in a moment. So this type of activity also builds interest in the classical world and hopefully in your program. And that's, of course, what this presentation is all about. In our first year of doing this program at this museum, um, we had over 800 visitors. And that is a lot of people that are engaging with classics. Now, does that mean that every person who comes into the museum is going to, knock on the door of Glasgow Middle School where I teach and say, "Oh, I want to teach Latin"? No. However, I can't tell you the number of people that come up to me at these events and say, "Who are you? Who are you? Like, what are you doing here? Or who are these students? Where do they go to school? I think I would really like my child to go to your school to have this experience." We also want to remember a little bit of bad news here. Enrollment in classics programs across the United States are down right now. We're in a downward trend, both in K-12 schools and in higher education. And if you want more information about that or anything that I talk about today, the brightly colored links that you see in this presentation, like here, this one, this report, it's all linked for you. You can go and read about that later. We want to remember how important engagement with the public is and keeping classics at the forefront of the public psyche, right? Public interest. I think movies are really doing a good job with that right now. Are those the most positive visions of the ancient world? Probably not. So we want to give people a little bit more realistic and a better way of looking at the ancient world. So one of the events that we've been doing is called All STEM Leads to Rome. We've done it now for the past 4 years, and I'll tell you a little bit more about the museum that we work with, and then I'll go specifically into the event. So I have found that museums, especially small museums, are looking to bring people into their museums. They're during COVID times, things really were very difficult for them. And so now that people are, getting back out again and wanting to have more experiences, museums are looking for special events, special programs that can bring people into their museums, especially some of the smaller ones. And like it says here, this event really got started when I was just at, a museum one day. This museum, it's called the Louisiana Art and Science Museum. I go here a lot. And one of the employees was taking pictures. She walked over to my family and said, can I take your picture? And we said, oh, sure, no problem. And she started chatting with me, and I started telling her about, my experience with the museum. And when she found out that I was a teacher, a local teacher in town that always brought my students to the museum, and I seemed to know a lot about the classical world, she asked me, would there be some way maybe, you could partner with us? Would you be interested in that? And of course I said, well, yeah, let's explore that. So that's how this event really got started. Me just talking to someone at the museum and telling her about the things that I do in my Roman technology class. So, very basically, the event works with you working with your students as your partners. So, students train to become what I call presenters, and they lead the activities at the museum. So, you are not really leading the activities at the museum, you're helping your students to get ready to present. That's what I call it. And their parents support them by just dropping them off or attending with younger siblings, but the parents are not helping you to run the events. They're not doing anything other than getting their students to the museum. And you see here in this image, this is my volunteer training. I do a whole training for my students on how to engage with the public. We'll talk more about that a little later. But this is very basically how it works. During the event, I'm just helping my students. I am not one of the presenters. So this is our museum. It's called the Louisiana Art and Science Museum. It's amazing. They are unique in that they are at the crossroads kind of art and science, and they love to really play with that idea and partner with people who can bring that experience to their visitors. Um, they love to have people come in and help them bring people into the museum. So, for example, they also have the chemical companies in town because Baton Rouge, where I live and work, is on a major river, the Mississippi, and we have lots of industry. Industry loves to sponsor these activities. So, for example, we had BASF sponsor us for an event where they paid for free entrance for all the museum goers on that particular day when we came in with the activities. So they sponsored us. They love to have their name on things. They love to have their name on philanthropy. Don't forget it. You can see it here. This is our little flyer that was distributed digitally, and you can see that BASF is right here on our flyer, and that is okay. We are happy. In fact, for this event, this was our one of our I think this is our third year. We changed a few of the activities for what we were doing so that we could do ancient chemistry. We did, a couple activities that were related to that, and they loved it. They thought it was great that we were kind of changing what we were doing to match up with their vision, and they felt even better about paying for, people to get in the museum when they knew that they would be engaging with chemistry. And of course, our students did all of the activities. I helped plan that, of course, but just keep in mind that there are people looking to help you pay for all of this and make it happen. So, very basically, this is a little stationed activity, right? We have different stations. We had 5 stations at this particular iteration of the event. And each station is a hands on history activity, that's what we like to call it, in which kids and adults engage with some aspect of the ancient world. So, we had a gaming station, we had a writing station, catapults, bridges, and arches. And I'm going to talk a little bit about each one just to kind of help you envision it. I'm also going to give you all of the information you need about how to carry out this little station yourself if you would like to. But before that, let's talk about kind of how we laid out the museum for it. This is our little schematic that we used. So here we had our entrance way. We had some students set up here with a welcoming, little speech for people when they came in and they were explaining how the whole event worked. Then, in this particular iteration of the event, we were focusing on archaeology. So we had little dig boxes here. We had sand stratigraphy here. We had writing over here, hieroglyphics, pyramids, all the different stuff. My point being with this is that you should really help, the museum to plan out where you're going to be at the museum. You'll need this, big space where people can kind of freely walk around. And the really good thing about museum partnership for me is that they help us with tables. They help us with lots of different things, all this space so that, there's, we don't have to worry about it. I know some people have these types of events, but they have them outdoors. And to me, that is problematic because, what happens if on that particular day, of course, there's weather issues and you have to start worrying about, thunder, lightning, that kind of thing. Having an event like this at a museum where you have an enclosed space, everything is protected, it's just so much easier. And, your event is not ruined by one day of rain. So here's our welcome station. One of the things you'll want to have if you're giving things to people to keep is a little bag that they can put things in. And here the students are offering some bags. These bags are branded, and you can actually buy these on Amazon. We've bought different types before, but you want to make sure it has a little handle, and then of course that it can fit all of the things that you're planning to give away. So each participant gets a little branded bag, and then they're also going to get a little passport, which I'll talk about in a moment. But these students here are just, welcoming people, explaining how the event works, and giving out the information needed. And notice we are standing at a table that says BASF because that is, they were our sponsor for the day. So each participant, as I mentioned in the last slide, also gets a little passport. And this passport can be something simple, like this was a half sheet of paper that we just copied. And at each station that they rotate to, they get a little stamp. And this really does help to incentivize visiting all of the stations for the participants. They want to collect all 5 of them. You can see here, if you look carefully, there's a space for them to put their name, their address, and their phone number. This allows us to give away prizes that we can either mail later, or if we're pulling live, they can get the prizes there. I have laid this out for you here in this link. So if you would like to, edit this and use it, of course, do so. That's why I'm here to help you envision this for yourself. And notice our stations at this particular one were scorpion catapults, arches, bridges, concrete, and writing. And then, of course, there's information here about how to win a prize and when they can win it and whatnot. So you can put all of your information here. You can also, of course, put, who you are, who your kids are, your school. You can brand this with anything you want to. So in our first station, we had the Roman game of rota. And it's a super simple game. I'm sure if you may have heard of it. If not, I promise you, you will be playing it in a matter of minutes. A child very young can play it. It's very similar to tic tac toe. It's played with a little wheel that you see here in the picture, and it's three little pieces of different colors for each player. So very similar to tic tac toe. You can get a template for this here. We like to make ours ourselves on little balsa rounds of wood, and all of these supplies are linked here if you would like to try doing this yourself. Kids really engage with this. As I said, you can see that the kids at this station are really young. I mean, they're Daisy Girl Scouts, and as a former Girl Scout leader, I know that they're either in kindergarten or first grade, and they're playing this game just fine. So this is a really good activity to engage young kids. It's super simple, it's fun, and it's a cheap activity. You don't really need many supplies for this. It does not cost much to produce this. And notice we have, I think, 4 or 5 games going on at the same time at the same table. So lots of people can engage with this in a very simple way. Right, so station number 2 was to recreate a Roman mosaic. And so visitors here will recreate a popular Roman knot design called the Solomon's knot. I made a template for this. It was just a poster board that I had laminated, but before I laminated it, I put some information here about mosaic makers, people who cut stone, people who laid out the design of the mosaic and whatnot. And then you can see the lines here of the Solomon's knot that I have drawn in before I had this laminated. And then all you need is 4 different colors of stone. Now, this stone was actually cut by my Roman technology students. You need a lot of it. But if you don't want to cut your own stone and you don't have your own Roman tech class, you can certainly do this another way. You could get different colors of glass beads. And I've linked that here, which ones I would get, if I were doing this in that way. Just remember you'll need 4 colors to do this particular design. And if you're unfamiliar with the Solomon's knot, I've linked a video here for you of Lawrence Payne. He is kind of a famous British Roman mosaicist. He does it in that style. You can see the knot over here under this little girl's arm. That's what a Solomon's knot looks like. This is we also had multiples of this at the station so that multiple people could engage with it. It's kind of type of activity where multiple people can engage with one poster board at a time, which is really nice. We had multiple kids trying to build it, together. So it's kind of a collaborative station. And next up, we have Write Like a Roman. This is a really popular station. We do this pretty much every time we have an outreach event because it's super simple. It's not very expensive and it's fun. Kids really engage with it. So we're using, if you can see this little boy here, we're using small pieces of papyrus. So we buy bigger sheets, but then we cut it down into smaller pieces so that we're not, wasting large pieces or because papyrus can get expensive. He is writing with a little manicure stick. So it's kind of like an ancient Roman stylus. And he also has a little sponge here that he can use to erase. I think we're using squid ink here, which you can buy on Amazon. Again, all of this information is listed for you here. You can choose from cuttlefish ink, which is squid ink, lamp black ink, or oak gall ink. You just have to decide which ink you want to use. Probably the easiest is going to be cuttlefish ink because you just have to buy it on Amazon and, open it up and put some out in a little jar for people to use as they wish. I also have a little alphabet poster here using the Roman script or cursive alphabet, which is nice because it's kind of similar to the English alphabet, but not exact. Does look more like Roman graffiti, so that's kind of cool. And people can try to write their names, they can try to write phrases, whatever they would like. And then anyone who visits can take with them the papyrus and the little stylus to go home with them. So a little memento. Next up, we've got our catapult station. Now, on this particular event, we were doing a what we call the onager catapult, and I've linked you to a video of me making one of these here. So they're quite simple. You can see the little girl here is using it. She's already built her catapult and she is now going to go ahead and fire it. And this is where the fun really starts. Once they have built the catapult, we don't just send them home with it. We let them shoot little tiny erasers at cups, structures that are built here, and they try to knock them down. They try to use their catapult and learn how to use it in that particular area. We have it in a little protected area so they're not shooting erasers at random people's heads. Important. Again, if you're looking to make these, I have everything linked for you. They're very cheap to produce and a lot of fun. Station 5 was construct a bridge. Yes, so here we have Caesar's Bridge, right, across the Rhine. We have little plastic buckets that we're using here, or plastic containers that represent the water, although we're not putting water in it. It just represents the river that they are trying to span. And their job is to use these tongue depressors or popsicle sticks and rubber bands. That's all they need, and they just produce a bridge. They can work collaboratively as these 2 little girls did here. Once they're done, we test the bridge by putting a 5-pound weight on it, and you can see this little girl is just dying of anticipation as I'm putting, I think that's me anyway, putting the weight on to the bridge. Very engaging, a lot of fun. We have a little challenge informational bulletin thing about Caesar's Bridge, and people can read that as they wish. Again, I've got everything here that you would need to, produce this little challenge, and that's station 5. Here's station 6. Station 6 is about building an arch. And for this, we just use a simple kit. It's an arch kit, and I'll show you more. But before we go on to the next slide, we tape off the floor in the museum. You can see here in this picture how we've got the stations taped off. We've got the little block kits and the instructions here. And here are some of my students helping younger children, but also I've seen when we do this, a lot of parents will want to get down on the floor and, build with their child if their child is young. And this can be really fun for a parent and a child. So you see her building the arch here. They're following the directions to a T, I can tell. And really, it's just a great little easy station, and there's no prep on your part. So during the event, we are constantly giving away prizes. So we have little stickers that we give away, sometimes even like extra t-shirts that we don't need from our program. We like to give away an arch kit. So I've linked you to that kit, this kit right here. You can get them on sale for like 27 bucks, I think. It makes a great prize. People love this kind of thing. And it's a visual representation, right, of something that the Romans would have built. I mean, it's called the Roman Arch Kit. So when people leave, they remember, oh, yes, this was the event that I went to. I won this at that event. We sometimes give away, scorpion catapults, a little bit different of a design of the handmade catapults. And these shoot Q-tips. So again, I've linked you to a video of me creating this, and they're super simple, but kids love them. So I have a little microphone that I wear at these events, and at every half-hour mark, I mean, these events last usually about 4 hours, 3 to 4 hours. We will announce, would this person come to the front, and you give them a prize. Again, we're doing this by having people who are turning in their passports with all of the stamps collected. We use their names. If they're not there, we put that aside and we can mail it to them later. But it just gives a really fun atmosphere as people are, walking around, mulling around. They're hearing names being called. They're like, oh, maybe it'll be me. So it just makes it really fun and engaging for everyone. So, how do I work with my student presenters? So, you want to start at, and to be clear, I work at a middle school. So, but I do work with some high school students. Through the years, we've done this now for 4 years. I have high school students now who come to me and say, "Well, can I? I'd love to go present at that event again. Can I do that? Would that be a problem?" No, of course, you can come back and help us. But they love it. So I start by hyping this at the beginning of the year when we have our parent night, our community night. I always have a sign-in sheet for parents who'd be interested in helping with this. It just gets them starting to talk about what is this event? How is it going to work? How are my children or my child going to be involved? I often offer it as an opportunity to show what you know, right? Kids love to show what they know, or mine do anyway. And it can be, to me, a hugely validating experience for them when they are standing there with a perfect stranger. And the stranger is really, I mean, I've watched this, they listening to what my students are saying, and they're the experts for the public. And that's very validating for them. They love it, just boosts their confidence so greatly. I always coordinate with organizations like Junior Beta, Key Club, JCL to give them service hours. They love to come and get their service hours. They are chomping at the bit to get their service hours. So that is a really good connection to make. And then once I figure out, who is planning to do this, we begin with some trainings. I do not expect my students to know how to teach, how to instruct, or to engage with the public. So I have a little training that I do with them. And I have that linked for you here. It does have a lot of stuff, um, about my school. But remember, I am a Google teacher. So everything in my files that I've linked you to today, you can always hit file and then make a copy. So, please feel free to do that. This is all for you to enjoy and use at your school. One of the good things to do here as you train your students is to introduce them to the activities that they're going to be working with ahead of time. So if you have a club, or if you, like me, you have a Roman Tech or a Myth Makers class, you're going to want to do those activities in the class so that the students can reference that in their minds when they are, training for it. Obviously, you're going to want to train them. I offer in-class and virtual trainings, and they love these. They say how helpful they are, that they know what to do. You can also use these trainings to go over, logistics, how to get there, when to meet you, just everything that you need them to know. And of course, you'll want to loop the parents into the process, but make sure that they understand that they're taking a back seat to this. It is their student, their child, that is the presenter at the event, not the parent. The parent is only needed to assist. I like to make my students, feel important in this way. I also have some paperwork that you can use to kind of get information. So, I'm always like the worry wart, right? Like, what if something happens to a child at this event? What am I going to do? So, I take care of all of that by having them fill out a form, that says, okay, this is my parent's email address, this is my parent's phone number. Um, I get information about, which activities are you interested in doing? Maybe they're not interested in presenting on arch building, or maybe they don't want to do mosaics, but they might have a real passion for catapults. So I'll try to put them in catapults first. So you get all that information in a Google form, and it makes it super simple. T-shirt sizes, all that stuff. And then I have sign-in sheets like the ones linked here at the event. So then when they come in the event, they put their name, when they started, when they finished. So that really helps for documenting service hours if you're doing that, and just get that done ahead of time. And then, okay, so this one, a lot of people tell me that I have a mind that is kind of crazy for organization, and I know that I do. So I often try to think, okay, how can I explain this to people in a way that it makes it easy for you? Because I don't want you to ever think that you can't do this type of event. You totally can. Okay, you totally can. You just have to think it through. And so that's kind of what this slide is about. So one of the first things that I do is to create a list of supplies for everything that I need at the event. And you can see it here, but I make this is my digital copy, but of course I make a hand copy so that I can check things off as I go. So, the welcome table, all right? So, and this is me, like, I know this is gonna be funny, but this is me thinking through like, I am sitting at this table at this welcome table when when I'm thinking this through. I'm thinking, "Okay, I need a tablecloth for my table because 'cause I'm gonna be sitting at a table, right? I'm gonna need a little stool or bench. And then what am I gonna actually be doing? Well, I'm gonna be wearing a toga or a tunic. I need some pins for people to sign in. I need bags for them to give them as they walk in. They also need a passport. I need stamp pads so that I can hand those out to the different stations. I need a pyramid kit for a prize. If there are students who forget to wear their t-shirts, I need extra t-shirts. And I'm just gonna have some tape in case I need to tape things down to the table. So this is me like thinking through exactly what I need because I put myself in my brain there. If that helps you, I hope it does. That is how I organize things. I physically walk through it in my mind. And then once I've made this list, I start hoarding paper boxes from the school's copy room and just, regular paper boxes, storage boxes, and I label each box with, the name of the station. And then as I pull things out of my supply chest or whatever, I put it into the box. I check it off of the list. Yes, I don't know about y'all, but once my school is locked on the weekend, I can get back into it. So if this is a weekend event, which it always is, I do not have a key to my classroom. I cannot get to it. So I need everything out of my classroom for this event, on the Friday before or whenever to make sure that it's done. So, and then I put scissors and tape in every one of the boxes in case those are just kinds of random things that you need at these types of events. So, it's in every box at every station. And then once we get to the museum with all of this stuff, my students are there to meet me. Each box is labeled. As you can see here, this is kind of my car and my classroom as we're preparing. We had a mummy activity for this Egyptian event we were doing. So this said mummies. That just meant that box went to the mummy station. So that when kids are getting it out of my car, they know where to bring it. And that's how that works. If you don't have a large car that you can put all this stuff in, this is my Honda Odyssey that is chock full of everything we needed for the event. If you don't have a large car though, don't worry about that. You can ask, this would be a great place for a parent volunteer to step in and assist you. So to be clear, your role at the event is not to present. You are not assisting with the presentations. You are simply walking around. You are supporting your student presenters. So I talk to parents. I will, say, compliment their children if the parents are there. I meet the siblings. I meet the younger siblings and see what kinds of connections I can make there. Thinking about the future. I ask student presenters if they need anything. So I also have like a little I call it a little VIP room with some snacks and water for them that they can visit if they get tired. I also tell my students to take a break and visit the museum. Our museum allows us to do that, and it's a great museum. So oftentimes there's stuff that's very relevant to what we're talking about in class. So I'll tell them to go take a 10-minute break and see the museum, get a snack, and then come back. And of course, I'm taking pictures, right? This was a picture that I took at one of our events. This one we held at our school where we were doing a National Geographic theme, and this was our Zeus for the event. He was sporting a beard that I had crocheted, and he's with his mom here. So, taking pictures, you want lots of pictures of these events so that you can share them with parents, share them with students, share them with the media as allowed. Your job is not to stress. That is your job. Okay. You're just walking around, enjoying yourself, enjoying the fruits of your training in your students. So there are lots of grants for this type of work, y'all. Outreach is all the classical organizations love when people do outreach. So this is a list of organizations and grants that you can apply for. There are many, and I'm just going to leave it here. All of these, of course, are linked for you, anywhere from $250 to 1,000. You can do a lot with $1,000. This event does not cost $1,000. It only costs about 100 usually, depending. If you want to get T-shirts, if you want to get branded items, it's going to cost a little bit more. We'll talk about that in a minute, but um, $1,000 you probably would not need for this event. All right. So a little bit about branding. My program, we have our own T-shirts and sweatshirts, and you can see an example of that here. It's Hephaestus. This was drawn by Flora Kirk, who is kind of famous right now in the classical art world. She does these wonderful mythological drawings and paintings. But I love to have branding not only for the public, but also within our school. The kids love to be a part of something, right? So we have our little Roman tech sweatshirts and t-shirts here, but of course, I mean, you know about this. You can get your own t-shirts. I require my students to have the t-shirt on at the event so that we look unified and put together to the public. We also purchased a rubber stamp with our logo on it. This is how we brand our bags and anything that we give out. It's on everything that we do, so that people, have that brand recognition. They know, okay, Roman Technology, it's going to be a cool event. It's also on our passports. So everything in the event is branded. After the event is over, anything that we do, I try to foster a sense of gratitude in my students. And we always thank our museum, for hosting us, even though, it's kind of a symbiotic relationship, right? They want us there, they thank us as well. But I do see it as a thank you. They're allowing my students to grow as presenters and just, working with the public. It's a great growing opportunity. You'll also want to thank your sponsors. I write a very simple little thank you note and let students sign it and add anything else that they would like to do, and then we mail it off. We frequently get letters in return, so I read those to the students, and it's really nice for them to see. Also, of course, you want to thank your parents and your students. I mean, students literally took an afternoon to come and do this, so I always thank them and congratulate them on their work. You also want to start planning ahead for the next year. My students are already talking about next year. We sit down after the event and have sometimes, I mean, the meeting will last a good 20 minutes about grows and glows. Like, okay, what can we do better? And they really come up with some really great suggestions. And of course, I write everything down so that we can go over it the next year. And I always ask them to come up with, well, what theme would you like to cover next year? What would you like to do in the future? This year, they came up with the idea of doing like a mythology con. So they want to have, be dressed up as mythological characters from Greek and Roman mythology. And they came up with this. They said they wanted to do a STEM activity connected to each Greek god. So they're already starting to plan that, and that will be hopefully next year. We kind of have a running relationship with our museum. They're always asking us, well, what are y'all going to do next year? What's it going to be? So we give them lots of thoughts, and they tell us, oh yeah, that sounds great. We can put, they often will tell us too, like, well, our big exhibit coming up next year has to do with this. So what could y'all add to that? What could you do connected to that? And we'll think about something, that's vaguely related, sometimes more than not. So looking for resources as plan to do this on your own. I have written extensively about our event called All STEM Leads to Rome on my blog, which is also called All STEM Leads to Rome, and it's linked here. We did one in April, the one we did in April of 2023, and then one in April of 2024. Yeah, so, if you want more details specific than I've talked about today, go look there. We also did one called Can You Dig It? An Evening of Hands-on History. This one was a more broadly archaeologically related, and we partnered with our local division of archaeology. So that one I talked about in the November of my blog, linked there. Last summer, I taught an NEH, National Endowment for the Humanities course on the Olympics with Bob Halsha Simmons. And one of our participants came up with a wonderful idea that she called Greek Day. This is Elizabeth Proctor, and she has a website and all of the activities that she does for that. And I thought it was really worth mentioning because you don't have to focus on STEM like I do. It doesn't have to be. It can be anything related to the ancient world. So this I think is a great example, and that's why I'm linking it here. Uh, Bob Halsha Simmons also does a wonderful classics day at Monmouth College every year in the fall, and he recently published an article about that. So I thought that would be very valuable for you to read as well. So once again, I thank you for coming to my presentation. I wish I could be there in person this year. But here's my contact information. If you have any questions or any comments or anything that you would like to contribute to the whole concept about outreach and how we can improve and do more as a classics organization, please reach out and let me know. Otherwise, thanks for coming today, and I hope you have a wonderful institute, and I hope to see you next year.